Hello there, and welcome to the channel. I'm Kai. Today we're going to be taking a look at a video that's been requested by you guys. So this is a B-17 that flew without a cockpit. I believe it's set in World War II, so it's going to be a bit historical. I guess it's an older video. Haven't looked into it, it is a blind reaction, so without further ado, let's jump in and have a look. Okay, here we go.
It was the 14th of July, 1944, a thunderous evening.
Close to the end of the
war.
war.
At 25,000 feet, 24-year-old First Lieutenant Ewald Swanson of the 483rd Bomb Group was pilot of a B-17G Flying Fortress, nicknamed Mizpah, its tail number 4232109. Their mission was to strike at the very heart of the Nazi stronghold in Budapest, Hungary.
Oh, wow.
The formation consisted of 60 flying fortresses, and as they entered Hungary, they were bombarded by relentless curtains of thick flak. Explosions erupted all around Mizpah, shredding the tail section and punching holes into the battle-worn wings. Nonetheless, the B-17 formation presses through the initial flak bombardment and heads inbound towards their main target, the Ferencváros railroad yards. This was one of the most heavily defended and strategically vital targets of the late war, critical for the movement of troops, equipment and oil, keeping the German war machine alive. Now, just seconds away from the target, Bombardier 2nd Lieutenant Kenneth Dudley lines up the Sperry bomb site and successfully releases their bombs. All of a sudden, chaos erupts. A Flak 88 round lands square on the nose of Mizpah. The nose explodes, vaporizing the Bombardier and the navigator, whilst covering the front of the fortress in blood. The nose peels off above the aircraft, and shrapnel from the cockpit ricochets throughout the cabin, piercing wing gunner Sergeant Wesley Tucker in the chest. The inside temperature plummets to a freezing.
Surely at that point, the plane is just doomed. Like, it's lost its cockpit effectively. Like, the whole front of the plane is gone. Well, the nose at least.
Minus 30 degrees. Due to the extreme damage, the
minus
center of
30
gravity
degrees
shifts to the tail, causing the fortress to pitch up into a vertical. They were mere seconds away from stalling out and entering a death spiral. Astonishingly, First Lieutenant Ewald Swanson, despite no longer having a cockpit, regains control of the battered B-17 and re-enters the formation. The crew of a nearby B-17, nicknamed Yvonne, couldn't believe what they were seeing. A blood-soaked B-17 without a nose pulls up alongside them in one of the most haunting sights of the war.
So I do have one question. So if the cockpit has effectively been blown off, is that just like the kind of the glass encasement? Because obviously the cockpit is where you have the sticks to control the plane, right? To actually, you know, go up and down, left and right and whatnot. So I guess that must be still intact, but he's just sat there in the open air? No way.
Mizpah was strangely flying as if nothing had happened. What was happening inside the B-17 was even more impressive. Since there was no cockpit or control column left to maneuver the aircraft, under the screaming command of pilot Swanson, the crew had begun to fly the aircraft by pulling the exposed control cables by hand. Despite having lost a significant part of the aircraft, this flying fortress and its injured crew refused to go down, a symbol of unwavering courage and indomitable machine spirit. However, over 200 Flak 88 guns still had their sights set on the formation. Suddenly, another explosion rattles the B-17. A flak barrage destroys their number 2 engine as the fortress begins to lose power and airspeed. With the nose blown off and an engine gone, Mizpah and her crew, through sheer determination and will, kept the aircraft airborne. However, the effects of drag from all the damage received was increasing by the second. Mizpah had fallen far behind the formation by now. For a perilous 10 minutes, the crew battled the control cables to get as far away from the hornet's nest as.
So they're literally pulling the cables. So the stick has gone. They're now just pulling the cables which the stick would have controlled. That's ridiculous.
Possible. Now, over
very impressive, of course.
Hungary, pilot Ewald Swanson informs his crew to immediately bail out whilst he held it steady. 7 crew members successfully bail out of the aircraft. Swanson could no longer tame the crippled fortress on his own. Immediately, the B-17 pitches up, trapping Swanson inside the fuselage. He grabs the parachute and keeps it close to him, waiting for the B-17 to stall out. As the fortress comes to a standstill, Swanson takes the opportunity to jump out of the front, but just as he does, his chute catches the torn metal of the cockpit,
no.
ripping through the fabric with brutal force. This was a blessing in disguise, however, as if the fabric hadn't torn, he would have gone down with the ship, pinned by centrifugal forces. Swanson is violently flung back, narrowly missing the tail section of the B-17. The young pilot momentarily passes out, whilst falling out the sky from 20,000 feet. When he opened his eyes, he was seconds away from hitting the ground. First Lieutenant Ewald Swanson immediately opens his parachute, but notices that it had sustained significant damage. The chute was not slowing him down enough for a safe landing. The landing was going to be brutal, one that he was unlikely to walk away from or even survive. By sheer luck, on the way down, he spots what he believed to be an enemy POW camp in the middle of a dense forest. Swanson positions himself on top of the trees.
Wait, that's a lucky thing? An enemy prisoner of war camp? I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that, right?
By the camp, hoping it would break his fall. Several seconds later, he crashes into the dense treetop. First Lieutenant Swanson suffers a broken left leg alongside deep tissue cuts from the tree branches. Against all odds, he survives the landing. The German medics of the POW camp quickly spot Swanson's body in the brush and recover him. They administer life-saving first aid to the young pilot,
I suppose that makes
who
sense.
at this point stared death in the face and kept going. In fact, to his amazement, he finds out that the entire crew of his B-17 had survived. His crew were captured nearby, only to meet up at the same camp their pilot had somehow ended up at. A happy accident, as they put it. The crew would endure 9 long months through the harsh cold winter at the POW camp. On the 30th of April 1945, US troops would liberate the crew of Mizpah.
That's fantastic.
For these young men had finally come to an end. The 8 survivors would return home to the USA that night. Ewald Swanson's bravery that day would earn him the prestigious rank of Lieutenant Colonel before his retirement from the United States Air Force. After the war, he returned to a quieter life, marrying his beloved Catherine Swanson and raising a son together at Michigan, USA. Yet, it was the bond with his B-17 crewmates that remained closest to his heart. In the decades that followed, they would often reunite, old warriors with weathered hands and bright eyes, sharing stories of impossible missions and the unbreakable brotherhood they forged when they were barely more than kids. Swanson would pass away peacefully on the 28th of February 2009 at the age of 89.
That's a long, a decent, he lived a decent life at 90, 89. But
remembered not only as a war hero, but as the only known pilot to have ever flown an aircraft without a cockpit.
Wow.
Only Mizpah and the men who dared to ride her into hell and back could ever truly understand what that meant.
Okay, so that was incredible. I cannot believe that. So they're in their formation in the squadron. So there's 60 of them. They happen to get hit. The cockpit gets completely blown out. They've lost all control and the ability to control. And the only thing left is the rods, or I guess it's rods, right? That connect the control stick to the actual flaps and wings or whatever it is that would maneuver the plane. And the guys are literally pulling on it in conjunction with each other to fly the plane. That's just, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Like, realistically, yeah, it's incredible. And it just goes to show, to be honest, that, never give up, literally never give up. And I guess in this, it was literally life or death, right? And they just kept going and they pulled through. And that what an incredible story. And the fact that, they actually, yes, they landed in a prisoner of war camp, but they did make it out, and they lived a long life. I think that's what an incredible story, actually. Thank you for suggesting this, guys. A brilliant one. But yeah, if you made it this far, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. Bye.